My precious child, look around you. The world is filled with people who rush past the hurting, who close their eyes to the suffering, who speak words that cut instead of heal. Many have abandoned kindness. Many have forgotten what it means to be selfless. They chase their own comfort while others break in silence. They build their own kingdoms while letting righteousness slip through their fingers. And yet, here you stand, different. You have given when you had little. You have prayed when no one was watching. You have held back your anger when every bone in your body wanted to lash out. You have chosen the hard road of integrity when the easy path was wide open. Do you realize how rare that is? Do you understand that in a generation where love grows cold, your heart still burns? That is why you are not like the rest. That is why the Most High looks upon you not as a stranger, but as a beloved child. You have done what many refuse to do. You have served without expecting applause. You have loved without counting the cost. And today, heaven itself takes notice. Archangel Michael says you are chosen, not because you are perfect, but because your heart has remained soft when the world tried to harden it, because you kept reaching out when it would have been easier to pull back, because you still believe that goodness matters, even when it seems no one else cares. This is your moment, not a moment of punishment or testing, but a moment of recognition. The Father sees you, and He is about to move on your behalf in ways you never imagined. If this truth stirs something deep inside you, press like right now and type "I am chosen" in the comments. Your agreement opens the door wider. The in-between is not empty. My precious child, I see you standing in a place that feels unfamiliar. It is not quite where you used to be, and not yet where you are going. The promise I placed inside your heart has already been activated. It has begun to move like a seed cracking open beneath the soil. But the world around you continues as if nothing extraordinary is happening. People go about their ordinary days. The sky looks the same. The circumstances you hoped would change remain stubbornly in place. And right there, right in that confusing space, I want to remind you of something eternal. Faith is not a ticket you wave to get instant results. Faith is the substance of the things you are still hoping for. It is the evidence of realities your physical eyes cannot yet see. If you only choose to believe when the situation shifts in your favor, then you are not following me. You are following outcomes. But if you remain steady when nothing seems to be changing, if you keep trusting when the evidence is hidden, then you are entering something far deeper. You are entering a genuine relationship with me, not a transaction. Before we go further, take a second to subscribe to this channel. You don't want to miss what is being released in this season. Hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell. I need you to grasp this truth clearly so your heart does not become disturbed. You have not been forgotten. You are not running late. The space you're standing in right now, this in-between, is not an empty wasteland. It is a sacred meeting point. It is where I work in the hidden places, deep beneath the surface, before I allow you to see the results with your own eyes. When you assume that everything is random, coincidence, your prayers become shallow habits. You rush through them, checking a box, hoping something sticks. But when you accept that you are exactly where you need to be, you will stop struggling in impatience. You will begin to listen fully, not only to the exciting promises that make your heart race, but also to the difficult lessons I use to shape your character. I do not lead you through this in-between season merely to rescue you from the problem in front of you. My goal is much deeper than that. I am restoring you at the root, your exhausted body, your tangled finances, your fractured emotions, your disordered spiritual life. Many people want blessing, but blessing is not pampering. It is not a spiritual comfort blanket that makes everything easy. Blessing must be handled with discipline and wise choices. If you only want to receive more from me without allowing me to correct what is broken in you, then what you call grace will soon become a new burden. You will not understand why you are still struggling, still carrying weight that was never meant to be yours. That is why I'm speaking to you now, in this quiet moment before the answers arrive. If you're ready for deep restoration, comment "Restore me" below. Your words have power when spoken in faith. Tears and the shifting of seasons, tears often come before answers. I do not take your pain lightly. I have never dismissed your suffering as unimportant, but I also do not want you to use your pain as an excuse to stop moving forward. When you let bitterness take root in your heart, even legitimate pain becomes a poison. It does not heal you. It keeps you trapped in the past, replaying the same wounds, expecting different results. Instead, I want you to let your pain become something else. Let it become a quiet seed. Let it be placed into the soil of trust. What you call loss today may very well be what I am reshaping into a harvest tomorrow. You cannot see it yet because the seed is still underground. But I can see it. I have already seen the day when you will look back and realize that nothing was wasted. So I invite you to turn your complaining into clear prayer. Stop venting about what is wrong and start telling me exactly what you need. Stop rehearsing your disappointments and start declaring what I have promised. Turn your long, sleepless nights into a new discipline for living. Let them become moments of working with purpose, learning with intention, and healing with honesty. I look at you right now, and I am not staring with suspicion or disappointment. I am looking at you with the patience of a father who knows exactly where you are standing. You think you have made a mistake because the scenery has not changed. You think you missed the turn because the promise is still out of reach. But I whisper to you precisely when everything looks the same. I whisper, you have not wandered off. You have stepped into the appointed meeting. I prepared this moment long ago, right here, in this very place. If you believe that God's timing is perfect for your life, type perfect timing in the comments and like this video. I do not need you to run faster. I only need you to stay long enough. Many people have walked away from this meeting point because they assumed my silence meant my absence. But with me, silence is often the sign that I am working most deeply. You grow tired in this space because you have become accustomed to measuring me by outward signs. When you do not see a door swing open, you begin to doubt what I said. When you do not notice immediate results, you think you misheard my voice. That is when faith becomes quietly distorted, not through open rebellion, but through an unspoken bargain. You tell yourself, I will believe if you prove it first. I do not condemn you for this. I understand that your heart longs for certainty. But I want you to see that when you treat everything as random, your prayers become shallow. Not because of me, but because you're only seeking a temporary feeling of safety. And that very urgency makes you miss how close I truly am. Remember the two disciples walking on the road to Emmaus. They were leaving Jerusalem in the sadness of late afternoon. They had heard the promises. They had witnessed the crucifixion, but they did not yet understand the resurrection. So they believed everything was over. Their hopes were buried. I walked with them for a long time, explaining the scriptures, drawing near to them. Yet their eyes were kept from recognizing me. Why? Because they were searching for me only in what was familiar. They expected a conqueror, not a companion. They wanted a king, not a stranger on the road. I did not scold them for leaving the city. I simply drew near. I explained everything piece by piece until their hearts began to burn within them. Only when they stopped, when they broke bread together, when they remained long enough, only then did they realize I had never left. Your turn. If you want to stop running and start staying, press like and subscribe right now. Let this be your commitment to remain. You are the same as those disciples. The in between is not a dead end, it is a stretch of road where I am walking beside you, even if you have not yet recognized my presence rightly. So I invite you to return with a different posture. Do not live as though everything is accidental. Do not pray as if you are testing your luck. Quiet the distractions that keep you hunting for noise to fill the emptiness. Stay with me, not only in the thrilling passages that make you feel good, but also in the difficult parts that require patience and obedience. When you remain long enough, you will realize that I speak to you not only with words, but through a life whose rhythm is being slowly rearranged. And when you stop asking when, your heart will begin to ask, what do you want me to learn here? That question changes everything. This meeting point is not a place where you pitch your tent forever, but it is a place where you are prepared for deeper restoration. When you finally recognize that you have not been abandoned, you will have enough peace to look honestly at what I want to touch at the root. And from that peace, you will be ready for me to lead you farther, not merely out of difficulty, but into a complete renewal you have never imagined. Restoration at the root. I want you to receive these next words with a slower breath, because here is where many people misunderstand. My heart completely, when you are exhausted, I do not come only to pull you out of the pit and then leave you to live the same way as before. I do not patch things up superficially. I do not merely mend the surface to soothe your emotions. What I seek is restoration at the root, the places where old habits, old patterns of thinking, and disordered choices have quietly drained you. If I only get you out of trouble, you will soon return to the same cycle. But when I restore you, I want you truly free, not just temporarily relieved. Freedom is coming to you today. Type, I receive my freedom in the comments to seal this word over your life. Many times you ask me to change your circumstances while I wait patiently for you to allow me to change how you live within them. You ask me for more strength, yet you refuse to learn true rest. You ask me to open financial doors, yet you avoid stewardship and self-control. You ask me to heal your emotions, yet you cling to attachments that keep your heart in turmoil. I do not say this to accuse you. I say it so you can understand. Restoration is not indulgence. It is the reordering of what is out of place. When order is rebuilt, peace will no longer be a fragile feeling that disappears at the first sign of trouble. Peace will become a solid foundation beneath your feet. Remember Naaman, the powerful commander who carried leprosy within him. He came to the prophet expecting something grand. He wanted a quick miracle, a dramatic gesture, a word worthy of his rank. But I told him only to wash 7 times in the Jordan River. The instruction was so simple that it offended him. That simplicity exposed what he was not ready for: humility as the path to real healing. When he finally obeyed, not only was his flesh restored, but his heart was renewed. He learned that healing does not always come through the spectacular. Sometimes it comes through the simple, humbling act of trust. You are the same as Naaman. Many of my blessings feel stuck, not because I am slow, but because you are not yet willing to walk the path of being corrected. If you are willing to be corrected and restored, press like right now. Let that be your yes to the process. So I call you back to honesty before me. Let me touch the four areas I care about most deeply. First, your body needs to be cared for with the right rhythm. Rest is not laziness. Sleep is not a waste of time. You cannot serve me from an empty vessel. Second, your finances need to be managed with responsibility. I am not opposed to your prosperity, but I will not bless reckless behavior. Third, your emotions need to be guarded in truth. You cannot allow every feeling to drive your decisions. And fourth, your spirit needs to be nourished by the discipline of love, not by passing inspiration that fades when the music stops. If you only want to be given things but refuse to be shaped into a mature person, you will soon grow tired of the very blessings you once begged for. But when you allow me to form you, blessing will become support, not a new burden. I know this is not easy because it requires you to abandon a faith that functions like a bargain. You cannot say, God, I will do this if you do that. That is not relationship. That is business. Yet it is here, in this abandonment of bargaining, that you begin to grow into mature faith. Faith that no longer depends on the feeling of being indulged. As inner order is gradually restored, you will realize I am preparing you for deeper stretches, places where emotions no longer lead, but trust becomes your compass. And when you are steady enough to face what is still unfinished in you, you will understand why I am not in a hurry. Some things can only be formed through patience, and that patience is what will carry you forward on this journey. Before you keep reading, subscribe to this channel. You are receiving revelation right now. Don't let it stop here. Tears is seeds, not shelters. I know there are days when you wake with heavy eyes, not only from physical tiredness, but because your heart has cried too long in silence. Your tears do not confuse me, they do not push me away. I have seen every single drop fall on the nights when you thought no one understood. But I want you to hear this clearly. Tears are not wasted, yet they are not permission for you to remain forever in one place. I have seen every single drop fall on the nights when you thought no one understood. But I want you to hear this clearly. Tears are not wasted, yet they are not permission for you to remain forever in one place. If you turn pain into a shelter, it will slowly hide the road I am opening. Many people hold on to this sorrow as proof of their own righteousness. They think, the more I suffer, the faster God must answer. But my child, pain does not automatically produce maturity. When you let bitterness take root, pain will lock you in the past. You will replay the same scenes, feel the same wounds, and wonder why nothing changes. However, when you place your pain before me without decoration, without prolonged self pity, I will turn it into material for building something new. I do not erase your memories. I do not make you forget what happened. But I teach you how to carry those memories without being driven by them. Remember Anna in the temple. She was a woman who remained through many years of loneliness and waiting. She was a widow, likely for decades. Her loss did not make her closed off or bitter. It made her steadfast in prayer. She did not use her tears to demand anything from me. She used them to listen. And on what seemed like the most ordinary day, she recognized the Messiah in a poor infant. What she had waited for did not arrive with trumpets of victory. It arrived with quiet presence. You are the same as Anna. What I am preparing for you may be coming in a form very different from what you imagined. Do not let your assumptions block your recognition. If you trust that God's answer is on its way, even in a form you don't expect, type "I trust your process" in the comments. So I call you to take one more step. Do not let your laments circle only within your heart. Turn them into specific prayer. Tell me plainly what hurts. Tell me what you fear. Tell me what you still do not understand. Do not hide behind religious words. Be honest. Turn your long nights into a new discipline. Sleep enough so your body can recover. I created rest for a reason. Work faithfully, even when no one is watching you. Keep learning so your mind stays wide and open. Seek healing instead of hiding your wounds. These small things, repeated in trust, will slowly change the rhythm of your life. When you no longer use tears as an excuse to stop moving forward, you will see pain begin to change its shape. What you call loss will gradually reveal itself as a harvest being sown in darkness. And then you will be clear minded enough to look back at the doors that closed, not with resentment, but with discernment. Because when your heart has been softened by tears placed in the right hands, you will be ready to understand something crucial. Not every closing is a defeat, and not every opening is salvation. Some doors close to protect you, some doors open to test you. Learning the difference is the mark of spiritual maturity. If you want to grow in discernment, press like and subscribe right now. This channel exists to help you mature in faith. I see your face each time a door closes, especially the doors you prayed over for so long. You knelt, you begged, you believed, and then the door shut anyway. You often think it is a sign of failure or a cold refusal from heaven. But I want you to learn to see those moments in a different light. Not every closing means loss, and not every silence means I have turned away from you. Often, my hand is placed gently against your chest, stopping you from entering what would wear down your soul day by day before you even notice the damage. What makes you hurt so much is not only the closed door, it is that you have attached your identity to what lies behind that door: a title, a relationship, a path to quick success. These things can look bright and beautiful from the outside, but when the door collapses, you feel as though you yourself have been rejected. I do not blame you for hoping, but I gently warn you, do not worship what I only allowed you to pass by. Anything you place above the life I am building within you will eventually demand a very costly price. Closed doors are protection. Remember King Saul. He was anointed and entrusted with power. He started well, humble, and hesitant. But when he saw people leaving him and the threat of losing his position drawing near, he hurried to preserve appearances rather than obey me. The door he feared closing was not merely a throne, it was human approval. Yet that haste caused him to lose what mattered more: my presence. Do you see? What he thought would protect him became the very thing that stole his future. Some doors must close early because if they do not, the damage later will be far greater. You cannot see the full picture from where you are standing, but I can. If you have ever struggled with a closed door, comment, "God protects me" right now. Release that pain to heaven. So I invite you back to the humility needed for discernment. When a plan collapses, ask me what you're being pulled out of, not only what you're losing. When a door shuts, listen to whether your heart grows lighter or heavier. Many times, a quiet peace arriving alongside regret is a sign that I am protecting you. Learning to trust that protection will keep you from chasing what glitters but is hollow. When you no longer panic at closed doors, you will begin to live more freely, free not to trade your soul for speed, free, not to trade depth for quick recognition, and then you will be ready to enter an even greater paradox of my kingdom. The paradox where you stop gripping your life to secure yourself and learn instead to become a river. Because only when you release your hold on old roots will you recognize the new path quietly opening ahead. Now, as your heart trembles less at what closes, I invite you into this deeper paradox. Many people believe it, yet few dare to live it. I speak to you as a father who knows your instinct to hold tight. People fear giving because they think they will lack. But in my kingdom, I do not measure by accumulation. I measure by flow. When you keep everything for yourself, even what is good will slowly stop breathing. It will stagnate. But when you become a river, life will keep being renewed within you. The reason it is hard for you to become a river is not that you are selfish. It is that you have learned to believe in earthly mathematics. You think you must have enough before you share. You think you must be safe before you open your hand. You fear that if you give compassion, you will be drained. If you lift others up, you will be left behind. Break the spirit of fear over your life right now. Type, I am a river of blessing in the comments and like this video. But I want you to understand what I give you is not for you to guard like a rare treasure. It is for you to let it pass through you. When goodness is held back too long, it changes shape. It turns into anxiety. It turns into control. And finally, it turns into loneliness. Remember the boy with 5 loaves and 2 fish. He did not have enough to impress anyone. He did not have enough to secure himself for the next day. Yet he placed his little into my hands without conditions, without demanding guarantees. The miracle did not begin when the bread multiplied. The miracle began when the boy let go, and in the end, he did not lose his portion. He witnessed what he could never produce on his own. Do you see? Becoming a river does not make you poorer. It only frees you from the illusion that everything depends on your ability to grip tightly. So here I gently warn you, do not turn sharing into a sacred transaction. Do not give only to activate benefits. Do not love only to be repaid. Do not serve only to prove your worth. When your motives are misaligned, even good things will exhaust you. But when you give because you love others, because you obey me, because you trust that I am working far beyond what you can see, your heart will become free. Free from calculation, free from the fear of being shortchanged. I do not promise you that signs will always be clear or that outcomes will arrive on the timeline you prefer. But I tell you the truth, what I want to preserve in the long run is not only what you receive, but the person you are becoming. One who believes while standing in the in-between. One who gives even without abundance. One who stays with me when nothing seems to change. When you live this way, you do not merely pass through the in-between. You become a witness that I am still acting quietly yet faithfully in every beat of your life. If you want to be that witness, subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. You are not alone on this journey. You have never been invisible. I want you to stay a little longer. Do not rush away with trembling hands the way you have done so many times when your emotions rose too high. What I am about to say is not meant to overwhelm you, nor to awaken shallow hope. It is meant to place you back where you truly belong, in the arms of a father who has been there from the very beginning. Even when you thought you were completely alone, I have walked through every ordinary moment of your life, not as a distant spectator watching from afar, but as the one who is near, near enough to hear even the thoughts you never dared to speak out loud. the choices you made that no one witnessed, the times you had to shrink yourself to fit into difficult circumstances, the times you clenched your teeth and stayed silent so others would not worry. I saw it all, and I did not turn my face away for a single second. You think those moments are too small to be remembered? To me, no moment is insignificant when it is bound to faithfulness. When you stood before numbers that did not match your needs, when you crossed off a very real desire to preserve what was more necessary. I saw that quiet sacrifice clearly. It was not loud, it did not look heroic, but it carried the shape of a faith trying to breathe under pressure. You were not only choosing between items, you were choosing between giving up and continuing forward with honor. And in those moments that seemed painfully ordinary, I was shaping you into someone who can steward blessings, not merely someone waiting to be rescued. If you have ever felt invisible, type God sees me in the comments. You are not invisible to him. There are fears you have never named. You've only felt them as a heavy weight pressing on your chest in the latest hours of the night. When the world has fallen asleep and there's no one left to steady you, your mind runs in circles around scenarios that have not happened, roads that have not opened, questions without answers. You thought those were the moments I was absent. But in truth, those were the moments I was closest, close enough not to interrupt, only to listen. I do not rush to silence your worries with hollow phrases because I know you need to be seen before you can be comforted. And it is that quiet presence that has held you in place, keeping you from sliding into despair, even when you did not recognize it at the time. I have received every tear you let fall in silence, not as a weakness to be ashamed of, but as a prayer that needs no words. There were times when you no longer had the strength to believe with your reasoning. You only had the ability to believe by clinging in the most fragile way. But hear me, my child. Faith is not measured by certainty. Faith is measured by staying. You stayed, even tired. You did not turn your back. Even when you did not understand, you kept living with kindness. Even when you felt hollow inside. And that is a faithfulness I never take lightly. What you thought was only enough to survive is precisely the material I have used to build something more lasting. I want you to understand this deeply. Not a single detail of your journey has been overlooked. The sighs you swallowed back, the right decisions no one praised, the times you chose not to hurt others even while you were hurting. Every bit of it has been noted, not as a scoreboard to keep track of your failures, but as the imprint of a person being formed. I am not only concerned with you getting through, I am concerned with who you become after you get through. And that is why I do not answer you with one isolated piece of good news. I answer you with a restoration that reaches into every dimension of your life. Press like right now if you believe God is restoring every dimension of your life. Your agreement opens the door wider. A comprehensive transformation. Even now, I am reordering what you thought was tangled beyond saving, not by a magic trick that makes everything vanish overnight, but by a new order that gives you the strength to carry what I give. Your body will learn the rhythm of rest again, no longer living on prolonged tension as a habit. Your mind will grow quieter, not because there are no problems, but because problems will no longer rule you. Your emotions will be healed from fractures you once accepted as normal, and your spiritual life will no longer revolve around waiting for dramatic signs. It will be anchored firmly in relationship. I am not inviting you into this through temporary excitement. I am inviting you through mature trust. The restoration I give does not make you dependent, it makes you steady. It does not help you escape reality, it gives you the capacity to face reality. And when you look back on the road behind you, you will realize that the days you assumed I was the most silent were the days I was doing the most important work, not to prove my power, but to protect your soul from what you were not yet strong enough to carry. So do not close your heart too soon. Do not rush to conclude the story when the page has not yet been turned. What is happening is not an ending, it is a transition. I am leading you out of an old way of believing where faith was turned into bargaining. I am leading you into a deeper place where you trust even before you see, where you give even before you have abundance, where you remain even before you understand. This is not the most comfortable part of the journey, but it is the most necessary. And I am here not to pressure you, but to walk with you step by step, slow, steady, true. If you want to walk this journey step by step with God, subscribe to this channel right now. Let this be your daily bread. I have not come only to touch one small corner of your life and then leave the rest to keep cracking as before. When I move, I do not work in scattered fragments because you were not created as a collection of separate parts. You are a living whole. Your body, your emotions, your thoughts, your resources, and your soul are woven together so deeply that when one part is exhausted, every other part slowly loses strength as well. That is why what I am leading you into is not a single blessing for you to boast about or cling to. It is a comprehensive process of transformation, quiet yet persistent, reaching into the very places you have grown used to enduring without expecting renewal. I know your body has carried too many marks from long days without rest. Some of your pains are not exactly sickness, they are the consequence of living beyond your limits for too long. Some weariness cannot even be named. You only feel it each morning as heaviness, as though your strength has been drained before the day begins. I do not dismiss that. I have seen every night you forced yourself up. Every day you pushed forward, even when you were empty inside. And in the place where you thought you could do nothing but endure, I am beginning a true renewal, not loud, not sudden, but little by little, your breathing will deepen. Your sleep will become whole again, and your body will relearn the rhythm of rest it has forgotten. The healing I give is not only the absence of pain, it is returning you to the original order of life, where you no longer have to pay with your health for every effort to survive. If you are ready for physical and emotional healing, type Heal Me Lord in the comments and press like. At the same time, I am working in the numbers that make you anxious. I know the feeling of looking into your wallet and sighing. I know the unease when the end of the month approaches. I know the pressure of having to manage, patch, and stretch from one day into the next. Lack does not only erode your finances, it erodes your dignity. It slowly convinces you that you're always at a disadvantage, always chasing, always fearing tomorrow. But I did not create you to live forever in that spiral. When I make a way to provide, I do not only bring money, I teach you how to stand firm before money. The channels that once felt blocked will be opened little by little. The burdens that seem to have no exit will be loosened step by step. You will no longer live only by sheer endurance. You will learn to steward with new wisdom. Money will no longer be your master. It will become a tool that serves the life you are building. But if only your body is restored and your finances are eased while your heart remains empty, I know you still will not be truly living. I see the quiet spaces in you where joy once lived but slipped away without you noticing when. There are smiles you have practiced until they feel familiar, yet they never reach the depths of your heart. There are relationships close at hand, and still you feel alone. Sorrow is not always loud. Often it is simply the long absence of feeling understood and being able to rest. I have not come to blame you for being sad for so long. I have come to pour into you a joy that does not depend on circumstances, a peace that does not require you to pretend you are strong. Little by little, lightness will return, laughter will no longer be forced, and you will realize you have not been abandoned in this world the way you once believed. If you want that deep, lasting joy, subscribe to this channel. Let these truths sink into your spirit day by day. Your spiritual renewal, and above all, I am touching the deepest part of you, the part you often avoid, your spiritual life. Not to pile on more religious responsibility, not to make you strain to become more righteous, but to allow you to live more truthfully before me. For many years, you may have grown used to believing by habit and praying by rhythm while your heart was tired and distant. I do not condemn that. I only want to rekindle a connection that was once vividly alive, where you come to me not out of obligation, but because you know you need to remain in my presence. When your spirit is renewed, the other parts of your life will naturally find order again. You will not have to force yourself to believe. Faith will become breath, not burden. None of these things happen so that you think you are more deserving than others. None of them happen so that you measure me by what you receive. They happen so that you become someone different, steadier, freer, able to trust even before everything is finished. I do not promise a journey without trials, but I promise a journey without meaninglessness. Every restoration unfolding within you is weaving a new foundation, a foundation where you no longer live by fear, but by deep, quiet trust. And when you look back, you will recognize that the most precious change was not what shifted on the outside. It was that you are no longer the old you, the one who thought you could only survive, never truly live in fullness. If you are ready to leave the old you behind, press like and type new creation in the comments. I know there have been seasons when everything inside you became so tangled that even you could no longer tell where you were going. Not because you were weak, but because you had to walk too long through dim crossroads where many voices spoke at once and none sounded clear enough to guide you. When your vision was obscured, you began walking by habit rather than conviction, by reflex rather than purpose. Yet, even in that haze, I was not standing outside watching. I was quietly doing something deeper than what you expected, washing your sight clean, not with a blinding light that overwhelms you, but with a pure, gentle clarity, steady enough for you to discern what leads to life and what ends in a dead end. There were moments you thought you had lost direction, but in truth, you were being separated from paths that no longer fit the new person I am forming you to be. When your goals felt unclear, it was not necessarily because I was not speaking. It was because you had grown used to hearing me through the lens of fear, through the pressure to achieve something quickly. I do not correct you by yanking the steering wheel out of your hands. I adjust you from within. I help you understand again why you walk, why you choose, and why not every open door is meant to be entered. The clarity I give does not make you better than others. It makes you more honest with yourself and with me. The power of agreement, the transformation I am working in you, does not stop at a single aspect, because you were not created to live in fragments. Where your body once grew weary through neglect, I am teaching you a new rhythm of rest, not to escape, but to be restored. Where your finances once tightened under a lack of direction, I am reshaping the way you steward them, not only your cash flow, but also your trust. Where your emotions were once strained from carrying too much that was never yours to hold, I am softening your heart again, returning to it a joy that does not depend on circumstances. And where your spiritual life once swayed because you lived by momentary feelings, I am laying a firm foundation again, so you will know who you are and whom you're walking with. This is your moment of alignment. Subscribe to this channel and commit to walking in alignment with heaven. This is not a temporary patch so you can endure a little better. What I am doing is whole and comprehensive because the cracks within you were never isolated. When one part is wounded, the other parts are affected too. The enemy does not need to destroy you with one great blow. He only needs to keep you misaligned long enough for you to begin doubting yourself. But I will not leave you there. The light I pour out does not only expose the problem, it also reveals the way forward. It does not only uncover the confusion, it restores order. When you begin to see clearly, you will be surprised to realize that I have led you away from many dangers before you even had words to name them. And now I invite you into another step of mature faith, the step of agreement. Faith is not only an emotion you keep in your heart, it is the consent you express through words and actions. When you dare to confess what I am doing, you do not create a miracle with your mouth, but you open your heart so that a miracle has room to stand. There is a holy power in naming rightly what I've begun. When you speak restoration, you are choosing to stand with the light instead of continuing to describe the darkness. When you affirm healing, you are aligning your heart with the rhythm of heaven, where all things are finished before they are seen. I know you have hesitated with declarations because you fear hoping only to be disappointed again. But my child, I am not calling you to speak in order to persuade yourself. I am calling you to walk in step with what I have already ordained. When you openly acknowledge what I'm doing in your body, in your resources, in your joy, and in your direction, you are stepping out of the place of an observer and into the place of a co-laborer. That is not superstition. That is the mark of a faith that knows how to stand upright, not hiding behind silence out of fear of being wrong. Heaven does not need you to speak loudly, but it does need you to speak truthfully. Type, I agree with heaven in the comments right now. Heaven does not need you to speak loudly, but it does need you to speak truthfully with confidence placed in me, not in passing emotions. That agreement may not change everything instantly, but it changes you first. It causes you to stop talking about your life as a chain of risks and to begin seeing it as a journey being led. When you name restoration, you're also accepting the responsibility to live in a way that fits it, caring for your body as a gift, managing finances as a steward, nurturing joy as a source of life, guarding direction as a sacred compass. A miracle does not fall upon a life that refuses order. It blossoms in a life willing to be rearranged. I am not pressuring you, but I am inviting you to do this while your heart is still tender. While clarity has just been given, do not wait until everything is perfect before you agree, because faith does not wait for favorable conditions. When you confess what I have spoken, you are placing a seal upon a process that is unfolding, not with pressure, but with trust. And wherever you are on this journey, I am there with you. My eyes not turning away, my heart not changing. What I began, I will also complete. Step layer by layer, until you are not only restored, but become a new person, able to see clearly, able to live steady, able to walk without fear through the in between places of your life, tears and the coming harvest. I know you have carried this stretch of road in silence for so long that even you can no longer name your own feelings. The nights you closed the door were not to escape the world. It was because you did not have the strength to explain to anyone what was happening inside. You thought that if no one saw it, the pain would be lighter. But I was there, not as one standing outside to observe, but as a father sitting very near, near enough to hear even the sighs you never formed into words. I do not see your tears as weakness. I see them as the sign of a soul still alive, still hopeful, even when exhaustion makes letting go seem easier. If you're still hoping even when you're tired, press like. That is the faith I honor. You have wasted nothing when you cried. Every tear you have shed carries a story you never fully told. Some came from disappointment after you prayed for so long and still saw no change. Some flowed from the pain of being misunderstood, overlooked, treated unfairly, and not having the strength to defend yourself. And some came quietly from shame when you thought you should have been stronger, should have believed better. I have not turned away from a single one of them. I received them because I understand how much you have had to brace yourself just to keep living through the day. But my child, I want you to see those tears in a different light. They are not only emotional reactions, they are sacred signs of a process unfolding in the deep places. When you cry and do not let go of me, you are sowing something rare, perseverance. When you keep believing even when you no longer feel certain, you are sowing surrender. When you choose to pray instead of shutting your heart, even if the prayer is only a choked sob, you are sowing faith in its most stripped down form. And a seed, by the law I established, never remains in the ground forever. I do not plant hope in you and then forget it. I do not allow you to pass through pain only to learn how to endure. Everything you're living through is being rewoven by me. Type, I believe my harvest is coming in the comments. Everything you are living through is being rewoven by me, not to erase your memory, but to give that memory a new meaning. You have not seen the harvest because the seed is still beneath the soil where there's no light and no applause. Yet it is precisely in that darkness that life quietly happens. Roots grow before the sprout breaks through. And what I'm doing in you follows that order, not the impatient rhythm of human hearts. There are moments when you wonder whether I hear you, whether your prayers reach heaven or only echo back into the small room of your own thoughts. I tell you with gentleness and certainty, not one of your cries falls into empty space, but I do not always answer in the way you expect. Some requests must be answered with waiting, because if I gave you the outcome immediately, you would not yet be steady enough to carry it far. I am building in you an inner strength no one can see, but it will be the very thing that holds you upright when what you ask for finally arrives. The enemy has tried to convince you that this pain is proof that I have forgotten you. He whispered that you have believed too long, hoped too much, and now it is time to accept that nothing will change. But I am doing the complete opposite. I am taking the very material the enemy meant to use to make you collapse, and I am turning it into the foundation of what will endure. Your pain is not permitted to become the grave of your dreams. It is becoming the soil for something deeper, truer, and longer lasting than what you once asked for. Subscribe to this channel right now. Let these words continue to water the seeds God has planted in you. You will recognize this harvest not in one explosive moment, but in subtle shifts. One day you will wake up and find your heart lighter, even though your circumstances have not changed. Then you will notice you no longer react as you once did to the things that used to wound you. You will begin choosing peace over battle, trust over control. That is not you becoming weaker, that is you being healed. And in those quiet changes, the harvest has already begun. Even if you do not yet have the language to name it, I know you want a clear confirmation that your time has come. I do not say this to stir your emotions, but to set you in the posture of one about to receive. Everything is moving without noise, without display, yet unmistakably real. The prayers you lifted in weariness are being untied knot by knot. The question, how much longer, is being replaced by an answer you did not expect. Not with thunder from the sky, but with a door opening at the moment you are mature enough to walk through it. But before you go farther, I need you to understand this so your whole journey will not become distorted. The miracle is not the final destination. What I treasure more than the outcome is the person you are becoming along the way. You are becoming the miracle. If you only wait for the day the tears disappear, you will miss what I have formed in you through every single tear, a softened heart, a faith no longer dependent on feelings, a humility that does not need to be recognized. These will stay with you longer than any specific answer to prayer. When you look back, you will not only see that you made it through, you will see that you were remade. You will understand that if I had removed the pain sooner, you might have lost the depth you carry now. And when you tell your story to others, you will not boast of victory, you will testify to faithfulness. Your tears will no longer shame you. They will become a language that other weary souls can understand. And through your story, they will find hope. Your story matters. Type, my story will help others in the comments and press like. So do not rush away while I am still speaking. This journey is not closing, it is stepping into a new layer of meaning. I have spoken to you about the value of tears, about the coming harvest, and about the shifts already underway. But what I am about to lead you into is not only receiving, it is living differently after you have received. For what brings me joy is not that you are comforted for a moment, but that you walk with new meaning, with a purpose no longer revolving around old pain. And here you will begin to understand why everything happened. Not to break you, but to prepare you for something far greater. I know the road you have just walked has left your heart weary, not because you were weak, but because you hoped with sincerity. You poured your whole heart into doors that seemed about to open. You emptied your trust into what you believed were the answers I had given for your life. And then, in the moment you had not yet understood what was happening, everything closed without warning, without explanation, without giving you time to prepare. You ache because you think you were deprived, abandoned, rejected. But I want you to listen very carefully from the deepest part of your soul. There is no door I close without the intention of preserving life for you. I do not act on impulse, nor do I leave you to fall into meaningless emptiness. Each time I place my hand upon a door and shut it, it is because I have seen the entire road beyond it. You have only seen the beginning. I have seen the end. If you trust the one who sees the end from the beginning, subscribe to this channel right now. There are bonds that once made you believe you had finally found where you belong. You called it love, companionship, destiny. But I saw what would unfold after the first smiles, a slow wearing down, quiet compromises with values that do not come from me. The gradual weakening of the inner voice I planted in you from the start. I saw how your soul would have to shrink itself to fit inside that relationship. I saw the times you would stay silent to keep the peace. the times you would set truth aside to keep someone close. And I knew that if it continued, you would no longer recognize yourself. So I ended it. Not to punish you, but to save you from an erosion you were not clear eyed enough to name. You see only the loss in front of you. I see an entire future being threatened. And there are opportunities you desired so deeply you begged for them through tears. You believed that if you could just step through that door, your life would finally turn a page. You imagined stability, recognition, the feeling of, at last I have been chosen. But what you did not see was the cost behind the glow. I saw mornings when you would wake with an empty heart, even while everything looked good enough on the outside. I saw how that environment would suffocate the sacred life within you, turning you into a machine driven by pressure and comparison, where your worth would be measured by performance rather than by the identity I have given you. I would not let you enter a place that would take your soul day by day in exchange for temporary reassurance. When I stop what you long for, it is not because I'm withholding. It is because I know you too well to hand you over to a way of living that would make you lose yourself. Press like if you finally understand that God's no is protection, not rejection. There are plans that seemed firmly built, intentions you believed were only one step away from taking shape. You saw yourself close enough to touch success. You began to calculate the next moves. You grew used to the feeling of control. And then everything collapsed so quickly you could not even react. You asked why I would allow that after you had tried with all your strength. But understand this, not every foundation that looks strong to you can stand in the light of truth. Some things are erected from talent, ambition, and personal will, yet they do not arise from humility and obedience. If I had let them succeed, you would slowly begin to believe you no longer needed me. You would start walking by your own strength, and pride would slip into places you never expected. I dismantled it, not because it was evil, but because it was not yet right in timing, not yet right in order, not yet right in motive to sustain you for the long road ahead. Protection, not rejection. My child, every time you call it rejection, I call it protection. Every time you think you are being pushed out, I know I am pulling you out of what would wound you more deeply. You see a door closing in front of you. I see a fence being raised around your soul. I do not promise you will not hurt when what is familiar departs. I do not deny that your tears are real, but I want you to know that not a single tear falls that I do not use to water what I am quietly preparing. While you are still looking back at what you lost, I have already begun arranging what is coming. While you grieve old doors, I am laying foundations for paths you never imagined could exist. Comment, new paths are opening, and trust that God is ahead of you. There are silences I allow, not to leave you empty, but to give your heart enough space. Space to be healed, space to be purified from old attachments, space for you to learn to trust me, not for what I give, but because I am the one who remains with you. I do not merely replace what is left, I do more than that. I restructure, I expand, I multiply. What I am preparing is not a copy of the past. It is a more mature, deeper, more fitting version for the person you're becoming. You may not see the change right away. You may still be standing in days that seem to hold no progress. But I want you to trust that everything I have removed was to create new capacity within you. The empty spaces are not signs of lack. They are invitations to something greater. When you stop clinging to what no longer belongs to you, your hands will be free enough to receive what I place into them, and that my child, will not only be better, it will be truer, healthier, and far more enduring than what has departed. I do not end things to make you smaller. I end things so you may grow. Stand more firmly. Step into what I prepared long ago, even what you never dared to dream. I say this to you not with the voice of thunder, but with the heartbeat of a father who has watched you for a long time in silence. There are movements unfolding around your life that you have not yet named, not because they are too small, but because they are taking place in depths your eyes cannot reach. People who once passed through your mind as distant possibilities are now being shaped and guided by me to move closer into the orbit of your life. Hands you once thought you could never reach are now being set in the right place to support you when the time ripens. Not because you have become good enough, but because I know you have become soft enough not to turn help into dependency and not to turn favor into pride. Subscribe to this channel. You are entering a season of divine connections. For a long time, you have had to manage by your own strength, learning to survive within limits, learning to accept impossible as part of fate. But I have never considered those limits a final sentence. I have used them as a mold. So you would not break when the white places come. Resources you once thought were only for others are now being brought into the light in a way you can receive without being overwhelmed. Not everything comes at once, because if it did, your heart would be thrown into confusion. I let each piece appear in its proper rhythm, so you can walk and learn to trust without needing to see the entire road. There are ideas I'm planting in your mind when you least expect them, not like a blinding lightning strike, but like a lamp being switched on in a familiar room. You will notice that problems that once trapped you no longer stand unchanged, not because they vanish on their own, but because the way you look at them has been altered. I do not always remove difficulty. Often I give you a new perspective so it no longer rules you. These thoughts are not wishful imagination. They are not empty self comfort. They are the result of an ordered arrangement released when your heart is calm enough to receive them. If you feel things shifting around you, type shifting now in the comments and press like final blessing and closing prayer. Now, before I release you from this holy moment, I want you to be still for a little while, not only with your body, but with your heart. There are words that, when spoken, are not merely sounds passing through the ears. They are commands issued in the spiritual realm, beginning to rearrange what you have not seen, not touched, not fully understood. And right now, I am not speaking as an idea nor as a temporary comfort. I speak as a father laying a hand upon your head, calling your name, establishing what will follow you in the days ahead. One last time, subscribe to this channel, press like, and comment Amen to seal every word spoken over your life today. Press like if you believe God is preparing a restoration that will amaze you. I place clarity upon your mind, not the kind of intelligence that makes you proud, but wisdom that helps you discern when you stand among many options that look alike in form yet are far apart in consequence. I give your mind rest from the circles of repeated thoughts, the questions with no exit, the worries that have worn you down in silence. From now on, when you face what is new, I will not let you step in with confusion, but with light sufficient for each sure step. The strategies you need will not come in noise, but in moments when you learn to listen deeply. And I will remind you of what you must remember at the exact time you need it. I place prosperity upon the work of your hands, not the kind that makes you chase numbers, but the kind that bears enduring fruit, Wherever you labor with an upright heart, I will cause increase to rise from there. Even if at first it seems small, I bless not only the results, but also the process. So you do not collapse before you can see the outcome. What you touch with faithfulness will no longer dry up as before, because I breathe life into it. And when you look back, you will realize it was not because you became more capable, but because I was with you in every detail that seemed so ordinary. I place peace upon your household. So the place you return to is no longer a space of tension, guardedness, or prolonged exhaustion. I soften conversations that once wounded you. I untie misunderstandings that have accumulated through the years. In that home, I cause provision to arrive on time, not in excess to waste, but in sufficiency, so fear no longer rules. I place my presence there not as a religious symbol, but as a new rhythm of life, where even the smallest corners carry the breath of safety and rest. And from that home, you will relearn how to live slowly, live truly, live not as a way of escaping, but as a way of abiding. I place hope upon your future, not a vague hope, but a clear direction, step by step. I do not show you the entire road, but I give you enough light for the next stretch. The promises you once heard will not dissolve with time. They are being nurtured in seasons when you thought you were standing still. When you look ahead, I will not let you see only empty spaces. Gradually, you will see the meaning of each segment you have already walked. And when you are mature enough to carry what I entrust to you, I will show you that the future is no longer a worry, but an invitation to walk in trust. I place abundance upon the generations after you, so you do not live only for your present. The cycles of lack, unrest, and fear that once repeated in your line will no longer have the authority to shape the future. I plant a different foundation in your children. They will grow not under survival pressure, but with the awareness that they are cared for and guided. What you are learning through tears today will become wisdom that protects them tomorrow. And through you, I begin to rewrite a new story for your family, not loudly, but firmly and enduringly. Now, I invite you to pray this prayer with me from your heart. Father, I come before you with empty hands and an open heart. I release every closed door to your wisdom. I surrender every pain that I have used as a shelter. I choose to trust you even when I cannot see. Teach me to become a river of your blessing, not a reservoir of fear. Restore me at the root. Heal my body, my finances, my emotions, and my spirit. I agree with your word over my life. I am chosen. I am protected. I am being prepared for something greater. Thank you for never leaving me in the in between. I seal this prayer in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. You are not alone. Type I am not alone in the comments. Like this video, subscribe to this channel, and share this message with someone who needs to hear that God has not forgotten them. Go in peace. The in-between is not your permanent home. It is your training ground. And you are about to graduate